presentation.
Thank you, Poonam. Thank you, Adit. Preeti. It's wonderful. Like, it's so nice. Like, I'm getting an opportunity to share my experiences. Really honored, I should say. Like, you all are doing fantastic work, and let us share our experiences today. So, this time, let me do justice. I'll go slow. This is what I really prepared for today's talk. So, this is the baggy eyes. What do we do? No financial disclosure. So I believe that this baggy eyes is today is one of the most major concern among all age group amongst globally and also amongst both men and women. And this has become something a too bigger concern because it can be because due to multiple factors. It can be temporary, which is basically due to fluid retention and unhealthy lifestyle, basically in patient having lack of sleep or allergy or too much of salt intake and also associated with other systemic disease. However, it can be also due to hereditary cause. As you can see, this young girl having a small baggy eyes below. It can be associated as an aging change or associated with thyroid eye disease, but usually contributed by unhealthy lifestyle. So whatever the cause, what we understand, yes, in baggy eyes, there is an anatomic issue, which is because of the herniation of the orbital fats. So what I want to insist here, if you have an orbital fat herniation, what you need to differentiate that whether you have only fat or you have both fat and fluid. So in this lady, you can see when she looks straight, you can see lots of very big baggy eye. But when she looks up, you can see still the baggy eyes are present. And when she looks down, it is still present. So she has a combination of both fat and fluid. But if you look to this lady, yes, she has a baggy eyes. And if she looks up, you can see that it is little more prominent. But if she looks down, it is not there. So this is basically fluid and not much of fluid, basically fat and not much of fluid to it. So what is the cause? The cause is basically, as I have mentioned, the anatomic issue. And what is the anatomic issue? One is the herniation of the fat, and secondly, the development of negative vector, which is due to bone resorption. So what is this positive and negative vector that we keep on talking? So when we are young, you see the malar plane is much anterior to the corneal plane, and this is known as a positive vector. And as we change, as we grow old, you see the malar plane goes much behind the corneal plane, and this is known as the negative vector. So because of this development of negative and positive vector with the other anatomic changes, which we usually see as hill and belly, we see the baggy eyes developing around the eyes in the form of stetoblepharon, in the form of the malar mounts. And this stetoblepharon and the malar mounts together forms the classically the double convex deformity. So along with this double convex deformity, we also have other changes like laxity of the eyelid, you have a dermatochalasis, you have the tear trough getting prominent, the different types of hollows and the crease, and also the zygomatic hollow, which is very eminent, especially in the elderly age group. So how do you treat this baggy eyes? Yes, surgically, but you have a second option, which is known as non-surgical by injection hyaluronic acid, because this is a natural source of filler, and this is what we prefer using for the baggy eyes. But when we talk about baggy eye, that's something we need to be very clear. So many a times we keep on talking, there's tear trough, there's baggy eye, you need to treat with hyaluronic acid. But what are the indication? In which case you manage such situation with the hyaluronic acid? If we look to this young girl having the fat prolapse, and now if you see the fat lying much behind the anterior lacrimal crest, then this other situation you need to treat with injection dermal filler. However, if you have some situation like this, if you have an elderly lady like this, where there's so much of fat prolapse, and you see the fat lying much ahead, anterior to the anterior lacrimal crest, so this other patient needs.
With all due respect, the time is up. Could you please sum up within a minute?
No,
I
this
think this is wrong.
this is the second. This is the second presentation, which has just started. So we can adjust the timer accordingly.
Reset the timer again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I get another 12 minutes.
What time set करना sir?
First was 12 minutes. Now you give me 12 minutes more.
Yeah.
Done? I can't see the timer because I'm in full screen. Is it
Ma'am,
done?
we have set it for 10.
Okay. So
Thank you.
you can see that these are the indication where you need to go for the surgery. So when I talk of situation like this, where so little amount of fat is being prolapsed, so what we do, we need to give a filler and we convert the negative vector into a positive vector, where you can see very good effacement of the leachy junction. These are some of the patient which has been treated. On the table, you can see the difference where the baggy eyes are much less following injection filler. And these are the patient where you see the fat level is much below below the behind the anterior lacrimal crest. So this can be managed very well with injection dermal filler. But I believe, and when we talk about injection dermal filler, it should be always in 3 areas of the face, like which are highly dynamic, like the periocular, the perioral, and the masseter region, like CK4 region. These are the 3 zones where usually one should go by the cannula technique, because this leads to a very good tissue integration, and the lumps and bumps we usually expect with the needle is never seen. So I always believe that this situation should be treated with cannula. But in when situation like this, where you have so much of lid lengthening and with so much of being fat prolapse, and which is much anterior to the, and the plane is anterior to the anterior lacrimal crest, these are the situation where you need to go for surgery, the blepharoplasty. But how do you plan what type of blepharoplasty surgery you need to do? If you have a lid lengthening which is short, that is less than 13 millimeter, you go for direct fat removal. This is a very nice paper by Fessa et al. If it is 16 to 19, you go for fat removal with fillers, and if it is more than 19, definitely you have to go for fat redraping. So a young lady like this, you can go for directly 3 fat excision. As you can see, these are the 3 fat pedicles which are being excised, and you can get a very good result with a very good effacement of the lid cheek junction. There is no filler, no fat redraping. Young ladies with little bit of fat prolapse who really wants a permanent solution, these are the best ways. Like even he has got a comparatively big amount of fat prolapse, but you can see that with only excision of the 3 fat bag, the negative vector has been converted into the positive vector, as you can see here. So depending upon the length of the lid, you can decide. But in situation like this, where you have got so long lids, so very lengthy lids, and along with so much of fat prolapse, then you have to follow the tissue preserving technology, which is known as a fat redraping. You can see the fat being much anterior to the anterior lacrimal crest. And this is what we call the tissue preserving technology, where you use the own patient's fat, the orbital fat, where you release the orbitomalar ligament and reposition this orbital fat right up to the SUF region. And this is a small video, the surgery I'm showing, where you know that we basically in the lower lid, we have got 3 fat bed divided by the inferior oblique and the arcuate expansion. And then I usually prefer to go by the transconjunctival approach. And the most important anatomical location here, you have the inferior oblique. You should be very careful of this inferior oblique muscle here, not to damage it. And then you fashion the 3 fat pedicles. These are beautiful fat pedicles that you can see here. After making these fat pedicles, you release the orbitomalar ligament, and then you transpose this fat, orbital fat, down into the SUF as down as possible. I usually prefer using a Prolene or a PDS suture, and then you suture it over the bolsters. So these are the results that you can see before and after the surgery, where you can see a very good effacement, and even this negative vector, which is being much reduced following this fat transposition. From a negative, you can see it becomes a positive vector. But in situation like this, where you have so much of scleral show along with the fat prolapse, the baggy eyes, this you also need to do a lateral canthal tightening procedure in the form of a canthoplasty or in the canthopexy. So these are some of the patients. I'm really going fast, as you can see, the before and after operation. But what I really want to insist here, that in situation of mid-face ptosis, where you have so much of malar deflation, so much of depression, displacement, you have to take into account the G-force. Only if you reverse this G-force, then only you can restore the facial subunits, and also you can restore the anatomy, the volume, and also give a youthful appearance. So I'll show you something very interesting. If you look to this picture out here, the same lady in the sitting position and also in the supine position. In the sitting position, you can see because of gravity, everything looks down and she looks much deflated. But the same lady in the supine position, she looks much better. And similarly, I can also show you this beautiful young lady out here in the sitting, the same lady, same day, same situation in the sitting and in the supine position. In the sitting position, you see she looks much deflated, but in the supine position, her malar mount looks better. If you look to her jawline, it looks much better. If you look at tear trough, it is much filled up in the supine position, and look to her eyebrow, it is much at the elevated level. So that means, what does it suggest? You need to take care of the gravitational force. You need to take care of the G force, and this is best done if you do a mid facelift. A very simple way of doing a mid facelift, you just separate the tissue and do a smash orbicularis lift. There are situations, sometimes I suture this mass orbicularis as high as the temporalis fascia. Those are the patients when they are very thin patient. These are the situation where you can suture much higher. But even for thick patient, the thick skin patient, I limit my maximum suturing limit is up to the lateral canthal region, somewhere around the lateral canthal region laterally. So once you transpose the medial and the central, and then you expose the SMAS, you expose the orbicularis, and then you suture at a much higher level, I usually use a 4 of Prolene or a 4 of Vicryl, and along with it you do a lateral canthoplasty. And you can see, like in this lady, you'll see a very different, you see the difference. This is the same lady before and after all the aesthetic surgery, going upper lip blepharoplasty, lower lip blepharoplasty, and some amount of the mid face lift. And a very simple mid face lift that I have done here, you can see that so much of this mid face ptosis got recovered following the little and the small procedure which was done along with the lower lip blepharoplasty. So with this, I'll be concluding my last slide. Oh, this is the patient where this is a real baggy eyes, having baggy eyes, upper lid, lower lid, everywhere. So these are the patient along with lower lid blepharoplasty. What you need to do upper lid blepharoplasty, you need to excise the fat. But the most important that you have to do a LPS plication, because they all, because of the heaviness, they already develop lash ptosis. They also have a involutional ptosis. So these are the patient I usually prefer doing a little amount of plication. Like in my hand, for 10 millimeter of LPS, the plication, I can correct 1 millimeter of ptosis. I feel this is a very good adjunct, or you can say a very good combo to a routine blepharoplasty procedure in all the elderly patient, because MMCR may not work good in every situation, but since we are already going to the anterior external approach, if you can combine this, the patient gets a much better look. So this is a gentleman with all the bags that are gone. This comparatively, I think this is okay looking, like all these bags, around 360-degree bags are no longer here, and also it is helping him functionally. So before I conclude that, I don't mean to say that surgery is the solution. Yes, there are different indications for surgery. You can go in the early stage, like the peels and the laser resurfacing. Adit has got great experience on lasers, and I'm sure Priti and Poonam must be using PRP, Shilpa and all. Even I have a good experience with PRP. I think this is a good option. But ZAF5, this is something which is coming, and I think it should come soon to the market, because it really takes care of the fat without any operation. Very important is that preoperative counseling and the final results. Usually I tell them you wait for 8 weeks or so, then only you get the result. Most important to follow the COVID guidelines in these days. And the most important is the basis of the surgical principle, the basis of reversing the effect of gravity in order to give a volume enhancement. And this will ultimately make a happy patient and definitely a happy surgeon. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Phenomenal talk, Dr. Kasturi, as always, and beautiful surgeries. I must congratulate you for keeping the field almost bloodless. Now, we do have some time for some questions. So if any of the panelists, Dr. Preeti, if you want to make a comment or ask a question.
Yes, excellent talk, Dr. Kasturi. It's always a pleasure to listen to your talks. It was really beautifully demonstrated. A few questions that I have. The first question is, in spite of all the measurements that we do for upper lid blepharoplasty, if at all we get an asymmetrical lid crease, and if you realize that you have excised a bit more in one eyelid, what is your technique to correct this?
Priti, I think on 27 there's a IC by Savri, revise and review. And you promise you attended, because I'll be showing all my complications in that presentations. And there in my hand also, I had postoperative asymmetry and how I had managed whether to increase the lid crease or to decrease the height. So I'll be showing all the videos. These are all the complications you'll be seeing. You have to wait till 27th. This is what to say. I want to give you a surprise, and I'm not going to lick up now. Ask me something else.
So another question is for the lower eyelids, for very early fat prolapse. You said you would prefer to do a filler. Do you see that when you camouflage with a filler in different gazes, like when the patient looks up, especially, the fat is seen separate from the filler? Is there anything that you do to prevent this?
Priti, that is why I always insist that we should have a very good tissue integration. That's why I feel that cannula gives a much better result. Initially, like with my needle, yes, you find a line of demarcation between the trough, the filled up trough, and the fat, right?
Yeah,
but here, and there's one more thing which I am planning, and I have done in few cases. The first layer of volvella, then a volite. Okay, if you have a 2-layer, and this gives a much better result, because volite is very superficial. You have just need to be intradermal or subdermal, and the volvella is in the subcutaneous or just above the bone. So if you have a 2-layer of this different type of filler from the same company, that is one good option. Otherwise, I feel that on this 3 dynamic zone, the eyes, the mouth, and this masseter, this should be always managed with cannula to give a very good tissue integration.
Mhm. Okay. And one more question is, like, these patients do very often have dry eyes at that age. Is there